Hello everyone, today I'm showing you how to sew a quick door snake or draft excluder. These are great for keeping heat in, stopping light from leaking under bedroom doors, and also great for using some old fabric scraps that you might have laying around. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's just jump right into the tutorial. For our materials, we'll just need a few things. For stuffing, I'm using some old fabric scraps that I've had laying around, but some other options you could use could be some old mismatched socks or even old towels. For the outer body, the length will depend on the measurement of your door, but mine ended up being about 38 inches by 12 inches. For the handle, the measurement I ended up using was an 11-inch by 5-inch rectangle. Moving on to making the handle, you're going to want to fold the handle piece in half lengthwise and press to crease. Next, you'll fold both edges in towards that middle crease and press. Now you'll fold the entire handle in half, encasing the edges, and press to crease. You're going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew along the indicated lines. To sew this, I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you want to remember to back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once you're done sewing both sides, this is what you should end up with. Moving on to sewing the main body, I'm going to start with the outer body piece that is folded in half lengthwise. And we're going to be sewing along these indicated lines. You want to stop at the other side of the fabric, leaving one side open and unsewn. To sew the outer body, I will be using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once you're approaching the corner, you want to slow down, make sure your needle is down, then you'll lift your presser foot up and pivot the entire fabric over, back to that 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then you'll just continue sewing all the way down and stopping at the other corner, making sure to leave the other side unsewn. So here's what that should end up looking like. Again, we left that one side open and we have the corner nice and sewn on the other side. Moving on to clipping the corners and flipping the main body out. So you're going to clip the two corners on that one end that was sewn. This is just to reduce the bulk and make sure you're not clipping through these stitches. Now we're ready to flip the entire thing inside out. Once it's flipped, I'm using a loop turner to push the corners out. You want to be really gentle with this and don't use a sharp object. Again, just go in very gently and keep pushing the corners out until they're nice and sharp. Once that's done, we'll move on to the fun part, which is adding the stuffing to the main body. I'm just taking my fabric scraps and shaking it all the way down into the snake. So I just kept going until I was left with no fabric scraps. If it looks a little lumpy, you can kind of knead it like you would knead bread, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this, and we'll move on to attaching the handle and closing the raw edges. So on the side that we left open, I'm going to fold in the raw edges about 1/2 inch in. I'm going to take my iron and press this down. It's going to make it a lot easier when you're sewing. And for the handle, what I'm going to do is take the outer inch of the handle, fold it in half and press it down. This is also just going to make it a lot easier when you're sewing the handle on. So I'm going to do it to both ends. And you should end up with something like this. Now I'm going to kind of tuck the ends of the handle into the open end of the door snake, as you can see here. And I'm going to pin the handle down. That's also going to make it a lot easier when you're sewing. I'm going to repeat that on the other side. And here's when you can kind of adjust the handle if you want to change the length of it. You can either tuck it in a little more or clip it off, but I ended up adding one more pin in the middle, and now I'm going to sew across this edge. So the handle is sandwiched in between the open ends, which I'm now sewing all the way shut. I actually ended up deciding to do one more line of stitches on top of this one, which was 3/8 of an inch, and I just did one right on top of it because I wanted to really secure the handles on. But once you're done with that, you're all done. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.